So when you're first getting started in commercial real estate, it can be incredibly intimidating to have to underwrite every deal. So I'm going to show you how I run very fast numbers on every deal that we look at so I can determine whether it's even worth taking to the next step. This process will work for just about any type of commercial real estate, which is the great thing about it. You just have to have a calculator, which I will show you my 10B2 here in a second, as well as a notepad and pen for taking notes. And I also recommend being somewhat familiar with the rental rates in your area, which you can always find on CRE or LoopNet. Just go in and search what properties that are similar are currently listed for. You may not be able to find lease comps. That's a very difficult thing to do in commercial real estate, but that's one way to check out the numbers. So let me show you my trick. Typically what I'll do is I'll pick a cap rate. I tend to underwrite my deals at a 12% cap rate because I know that I'm doing a heavy value add investment, which means probably buying the building vacant, fixing it completely up, and filling it up with new tenants. So the 12% cap rate works for me. Some people think that that is unrealistic, but we find deals at that cap rate. You may choose an 8% or a 10% or even 20% cap rate, just depending on what is worth it for you. So let's look at it here real quick. I'm going to assume a $500,000 property with a $150,000 renovation. All right, so let's say the purchase price is $500K, reno is $150K, which puts our total $650,000. Now, since I've chosen a 12% cap rate, I'm just going to multiply this by 0.12. Gives us 12%. Since I'm not a math whiz, let me grab my calculator real quick. That gives us a total rent that we need to collect every year. And I do this on a triple net basis. So this is already excluding any other costs because the tenants will be paying that. That means that I need to get $78,000 per year in rent. If I divide 78,000 by 12, that gives me $6,500 a month in triple net rents. Now, if you're buying a $500,000 property, it's probably safe to assume you're spending at least $150 a square foot. Now, markets can vary wildly. If you caught my live stream not too long ago, we were looking at properties that were selling for $25 a foot. It's very possible to find them, but in some markets, that might be $300 a foot. But let's assume that $500,000 gets you $150 a square foot, which is a 3,333 square foot building. So what we'll do there is we will divide the $78,000, which is our annual rent, by 3,333 square feet. That'll give you your price per square foot per year, which is typically how properties are marketed. Now, that gives us a price per square foot of $23.40 triple net. Now, in Nashville, that is a very cheap price per square foot. You start going out into the suburbs, it might start to get expensive, but in many markets in the Southeast and the Midwest, that is a very achievable price per square foot, depending on what kind of building this is, right? I mean, if it's a corner retail market or it's an industrial property, it will make sense for the retail. It probably won't make sense for industrial, but let's assume that this is retail. Then once I have that number, I would go in and look at comparable properties in the area to see what they are listed for lease. And if that $23.40 is below market, meaning it is cheaper than what every other property is listed for, then we've got a deal here. This is worth looking at and underwriting even further. Now, let's say that the rental prices in the area are $16 a foot. Well, then I would say, you know what? This one is probably not worth the time. Let's move on to the next one. I will say, if you change it from a 12% cap rate to an 8% cap rate, you may be able to make it work, but then your margins are becoming slimmer and every deal that you do ties up your balance sheet, ties up your capital. So you really have to sit down and think to yourself, is it worth doing this deal? Let's just assume we were going to do this deal at an 8% cap rate, $650,000 times 0.08. That means I need $52,000 a year in rent. 52,000 divided by 3,333 is $15.60 of square foot triple net. In my example there at $16 a foot, if that is market, then you're probably going to be right at market, which means you're going to be delivering a new product, right? Newer, because you spent $150,000 renovating the property at $15.60 a foot triple net. You're probably going to be competitive with the market. Here's where the biggest difference comes in for you as an investor is underwriting the actual financials of it. Now, let's assume that we're going to be putting 20% down. So let me put down here 20% with a 20-year amortization. And right now, interest rates are at about 7.5%. So 20% down payment on $650,000 is $130,000 minus $650 So we're going to have a loan balance of $520,000. I come over here to my 10B2 calculator. So let's assume that our mortgage balance is $520,000. Put that in the principal value. Our interest rate is going to be 7.5%. We've got 240 months as the amortization schedule. That is 20 years. Our payment comes out to be $4,100 a month. Now, you can see in our examples, if we're collecting $6,500 a month in triple net rent off the first one, where we're collecting $78,000 a year at a 12% cap rate, we're comfortably making about $2,200 to $2,400 a month before any asset level expenses that you have, right? Before taxes, before your CPA, before anything professional. But if we end up renting that property out at an 8% cap rate, we are barely making any money at all. And that's because the interest rates are so high. So you're cash flowing about $4,300 a month before your $4,200 a month payment. So that's why I like to use a 12% cap rate. Is it always achievable? Absolutely not. But there you have it for running numbers very quickly on any commercial real estate deal that you're looking at. If you want to dive further into underwriting once you have found a deal, check out this video here.